Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, founder of the Sports History Network. I'm stopping by this feed real quick to share a conversation with you that I had on our Showcase podcast, simply called SHN Showcase. The conversation was with Adam Weinstein. Adam is the founder and CEO of our new partner, ThriveFantasy. Now, you might have already heard on this show that the Sports History Network has partnered with ThriveFantasy to provide you an awesome opportunity to play a unique version of daily fantasy player props. The conversation that I had with Adam helps break down a little bit more of what this style of daily fantasy is all about, what separates ThriveFantasy from the field, why he started ThriveFantasy, and he even gives you some tips in there for playing on the app. Oh yeah, and as a loyal listener of Sports History Network, Adam and the crew gave us a killer introduction package for you to play on Thrive Fantasy this upcoming NFL week. Now dig on this. Any new users that sign up through our promo code and deposit $50 or more are going to get an instant 100% match deposit up to $100. And because it's the NFL kicking off tonight, the Sports History Network code earns you a free ticket to both the Thursday night $20,000 contest and the NFL Week 1 Sunday $100,000 contest. That is a $40 value all in itself. But to take full advantage of this promo, you need to hurry up and sign up before tonight's kickoff between the defending Super Bowl champs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. When you sign up, make sure you use the code SHN at checkout. Again, head to thrivefantasy.com and use that promo code SHN at checkout. But wait, there's more. Thrive Fantasy is giving out a swag bag of goodies to one lucky winner of the Sports History Network. There's a t-shirt, mini football, shot glass golf tees, and more. For your chance to enter the contest and to learn more about Thrive Fantasy, head to sportshistorynetwork.com/thrive. Now for that interview with Adam Weinstein. And then at the end, you'll hear the normal host of this show, Oz Davis of Truly the Goats, with our Thrive Fantasy promo commercial. So the first thing I really want to get into is, if I were to come to you and say, give me an elevator pitch describing to a noob what Thrive Fantasy is all about, how would you do that?
Yeah, so Thrive Fantasy is a daily fantasy sports and esports platform for player props. Anybody unfamiliarized with a player prop, it's a simple over-under on an athlete's given stat in a given sport or esport. So for instance, Tom Brady, will he throw for over or under 300 passing yards today? Or Ezekiel Elliott, over under 70 rushing yards. So very easy, more of a pick up and play type mentality. So for football purposes, instead of drafting a lineup like you would traditionally of one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, we give a user a list of 20 of these over-unders, and they pick 10 out of 20 and go up against other users. The less probable a prop is to occur, the more points you get. Wherein lies the game theory. So Arnie, you can get 7 out of 10 right. I can get 8 out of 10 right, but you can still beat me if you pick more underdogs, more of the riskier plays. So a lot of fun. We're really, really excited about NFL starting up on Thursday. We got literally over millions of dollars are going to be changing hands this year during NFL season. So we'd love to have you and all your guys hop on board this year.
Yeah, and what drew me into it after having the conversation and researching a little bit was that thought process of assigning a point value to each one of the props. So for instance, I used to always do this with my family where we would pick the winners for the NFL. You'd have 16 games. I'm most confident in this one, so I'll give it 16. I'll give this one 1, so on and so forth. So to me, that hybrid version is what really drew me in. And if someone were to ask you, like, so what's different about Thrive Fantasy than maybe some of the other fantasy apps out there, what would you describe that as?
Yeah, I would say it's twofold. A, our game concept is strictly and solely around player props. I think that's the future. I think that's the most fun and engaging way to really sweat out NFL weeks, specifically on Sundays, where it's just over-unders on your favorite athletes. And then B, the biggest pain point, I'll obviously address the two behemoths in the space, FanDuel and DraftKings. Their game concept is really tough for the casual fan to compete at a high level. The reason behind that is they need to research 32 quarterbacks, 65 running backs, 100 wide receivers. So it's really tough to do all of that research and then create a team. What we do is we only ask you about 20 of these athletes, and these are all the Pro Bowlers on a given team, right? You're never going to see the wide receiver 3 of the Vikings in one of our contests. So it's just much more of a pick up and play type mentality, a lot more fun for the casual fan, and they actually can compete at a much higher level.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned 2 of them at the outset of this. We had Ezekiel Elliott and Tom Brady, which is going to be Thursday night as the time that we're recording this. That's only a couple days away. Let's go into week 1. You kind of alluded to this. So are there any special games that the listeners of the Sports History Network should be interested in?
Yeah, so we kick off with Thursday Night Football. It's a $20, $20,000 guaranteed entry. That's our feature contest. And then for week 1 on Sunday, we actually have over $145,000 guaranteed for week 1. Most notably is our $20 entry, $100K guaranteed contest with $20,000 going to first place. So yeah, a lot of our traffic and a lot of our initiatives are based around that. But we do have free to play contests. We have contests ranging from $2 all the way up to $10,000. So whatever floats your boat, we definitely have a contest ready and able for you.
Okay, so I'm on the website right now, and I'm looking at something called, I'm filtering it by just the NFL, and then I'm on all traditional versus. Could you kind of describe a little bit what the different type of play or different type of contests are?
Yep. So we have pretty much 3 that we highlight for the NFL season. Traditional is what I aforementioned earlier. It's just Tom Brady over under 300 passing yards. We give you a list of 20 of those props. You pick 10 out of 20. Versus is really cool. It's athlete versus athlete player props, which let's just say for Thursday, we'll use Dak versus Tom. So Tom Brady total passing yards plus 2.5 yards given to him as, like, let's just say a handicap versus Dak Prescott total passing yards, or Ronald Jones total rushing yards plus 10.5 versus Ezekiel Elliott. So it's athlete versus athlete player props, which is so much fun. And then thirdly, we have, I think this could be the biggest daily fantasy contest in the world in the next couple of years. It's touchdowns only. Essentially, I give you a list of 20 of these athletes. Will they score a touchdown or not? So it's a red zone viewer's dream right there. You obviously see every touchdown on red zone, and it's really Joe Mixon. Will he score a touchdown or not? Aaron Jones, Devontae Adams, Julio Jones, whoever it is, it's just over under half a touchdown. So could not be more easy. And more of a casual type of contest for the viewers and for the fans out there.
Yeah, and it's always fun to play with some, watch the games with skin in the game, as they say. Now, you mentioned all these different stats and such. So where are you guys drawing your stats or your data to be able to develop these props?
Yep. Great question. So we're partnered with Sport Radar and Stats Perform. So we capture all of the data in game every 15 seconds. So it's a really fun secondary screen. But in terms of where we create the stats or the prop lines, it's user versus user. So essentially, we're not the house. We don't care who wins. But we make these stat lines based on like 4 or 5 different data aggregators or percentage aggregators who are projecting out these player stats. So we go to a RotoWire or a Fantasy Pros or a Pro Football Focus, take what they believe is going to occur, and then we take the aggregate there.
And you just highlighted on something that I considered the hybrid and what makes you your unique position, the versus user with maybe some rake, but not you're playing against the house and you're almost set up to lose. That's the thing that drew me in the most to this type of a platform.
Yeah, I appreciate it. We're definitely user versus user. That's one of our main revenue models. We do take a small rake, not nearly as egregious as our counterparts are in this industry. But yeah, that makes us a lot of fun. You do not have to be 100% accurate in order to be successful on our app. Out of those 10 props, honestly, if you get 7 out of 10 right, you're most likely going to be cashing in a high percentage of our tournaments.
Okay, so now you ready for a little bit of a game? We've been talking about fantasy, but I got a little fun game for you. Can you see what's in this little DeLorean right there?
Dude, I cannot see what's in it. No.
Oh, not inside. I'm sorry. You see the DeLorean itself. So
I do see the DeLorean, yes.
we're gonna take you back in time, right? We're gonna get that cranking baby up to 88 miles an hour. That's kind of a premise of the Football History Dude show, the one that I air here. And now it's the first time ever on SHN Showcase because Oz is the one that normally does this. So we're gonna take you back in time. You're gonna go back in the DeLorean for the listener of this show, to that light bulb moment, the eureka moment. Maybe it was a pain point. What sparked the revolution for you wanting to start Thrive Fantasy?
Yeah, great question. We don't have to hop in the DeLorean too far back, probably about a decade or so. So I've actually been a gamer slash gambler for a large period of my life. I actually won my first poker tournament online when I was 14 under my brother's name. So hopefully this doesn't get past any attorney generals or anything. But yeah, so I know what gamblers are really looking for. I graduated UMass 2012 with a sport management degree. And that's really when FanDuel and DraftKings were making a big name for themselves. So given my background, given my experience in sports, and also like how these types of concepts work, I was like, this is going to be awesome. I'm going to deposit money on these sites and win a ton of money. That was the opposite of what occurred. I got my absolute butt kicked on these sites just because of what I aforementioned. It's so tough to research every player. These Wall Street guys were making algorithms to really optimize lineups. So I loved the thought process of daily fantasy. I just didn't think that those game concepts were good enough to really keep my attention and my money in for quite some time. So I wanted to make something much easier for the casual fan. And then moreover, I've always, as I said earlier, I love player props. I think they are by far and away the most fun. Even you see on SportsCenter, they're talking 5, 6, 7 times an hour now about over-unders for athletes, whether it's for the season or for certain individual games. So really thought that daily fantasy and prop betting needed to have a baby. And that's where Thrive Fantasy came and was evolved.
Yeah, that's becoming more and more popular, even in some of your standard fantasy football podcasts. So, for instance, Establish the Run, Adam Levitan and the boys just recently listened to an episode, Player Props, about that. So it's something that, and speaking of him, coming from the world of poker, it seems like a lot of daily players, that's where they came from. Maybe that same skill set, I take it.
100%. Yeah, you're obviously you need to have that understanding that for a lot of the time you're going to lose. It's not clearly not gambling. It's definitely a game of skill, but there is a lot of variance there. So if you're not ready for the swings, the daily fantasy might not be for you. And that's why poker players correlated and transitioned to daily fantasy at a very high level. They understood, they have that type of mindset where if they put themselves in a position to be successful at a large percentage of the time, they'll be in a really good spot. So, yeah, I believe the number one player in the world, Alex Baker, was a former professional poker player. And now he's transitioned to be an insanely successful daily fantasy player as well.
Now, you mentioned UMass. So did you grow up in the area? Were you, do I dare say, a Patriots fan?
No, I actually grew up in New York. So I'm a Giants fan, Giants, Yankees, Knicks. So going to UMass, actually my senior year was the Giants Pats second Super Bowl with the Ahmad Bradshaw backing into the end zone. So that was a really fun time, a little scary after we won. I know that a lot of my friends weren't happy with me that night, but yeah, it was quite the spectacle and quite the experience.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to, people on the regular Football History Dude show, they hear I'm a Lions fan, so I don't have any hard feelings for any of you guys if you're going to be having a hard year. Hopefully this Kenny Galladay situation works out for you in the near future. And you mentioned Yankees and some other teams too. Thrive is not just NFL, correct? There's other sports that you provide?
That's right. It's NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, cricket, soccer, and esports. We do Counter-Strike, League of Legends, Dota, and Valorant, with a lot more coming soon. So NFL is definitely king. That is where most of our engagement comes from. That's where most of our marketing initiatives come as well. But we definitely have a lot of other opportunity there as well.
All right, so one more game before we get you on out of here. And this time I'm going to bring up this little can that I found at the FYE store. So it's 1.21 gigawatts, getting me up to 88 miles per hour. But that's for my rosters. So I want you to give the listener of the show some last parting tips maybe on how to best tackle the player prop style DFS.
Yeah, I think it's, as you alluded to earlier, it's your confidence level. So we don't say, and I'll just use Thrive as the example here. We give you a list of 20 over unders. So a big rookie mistake is out of the 20, you have to pick 10. They just pick the first 10 that they see. That's probably not the smartest and most strategic thought process. I would go through all 20 of the player props and then determine how confident you are on all of them, and then pick your most confident 10 out of 20. But what we see a lot of the time is they're just picking the first 10 and negating the bottom 10, which is definitely not the best process or logical thought there. So it's all about confidence, right? A lot of the time that bettors or gamers, whatever you want, they're confident about 75 different plays over the board, right? But it's very tough to be successful when picking that many different props or that many different lines. So stay in your wheelhouse, stay in your comfort zone, pick 5 or 10, and then go from there.
All right, Adam, I appreciate it. Thanks again for being an official partner of the Sports History Network. We're looking to thrive together as we move forward with Thrive Fantasy.
I love it, Arnie. I appreciate the time. And everybody signing up, we'll love to have you. Tell us what you like about the app and the platform. Tell us what you don't like, how we can better suit what you guys are looking for. So really appreciate it. Pumped for NFL, and hope to have you guys on board.
Hey, are you ready for some football? Some fantasy football? How about some daily fantasy football? Silly questions, right? Of course you are. You're ready to talk some smack and win some cash every Sunday, and Thursday and Monday, and whenever there's football games. The Sports History Network invites you to play your daily fantasy football this season at ThriveFantasy.com. Thrive Fantasy offers hundreds of thousands, millions in cash every day on NBA, MLB, PGA golf, cricket, esports, and of course, NFL football. And just to get the 2021 NFL season started right, Thrive Fantasy is holding its $100,000 guaranteed contest with a $20,000 first prize. Sign up with Thrive Fantasy today to get a 100% match bonus on your first deposit for up to $100 in free daily fantasy football play. Visit sportshistoryNetwork.com/thrive. That's THRIVE, or enter promo code SHN when depositing at the cashier. Join Thrive Fantasy today, earn cash prizes, and support great shows like this at the Sports History Network. Now that's a win-win-win situation for you to kick off your own NFL season.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you got to do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you got to do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.